Welcome back to Neuma, the crossroad of science and enlightenment. And this one is a special milestone as we're getting ready to reflect on 24 and what we have accomplished. But more importantly, as I sit here and I think about all of it and just where it all began, I have so much gratitude. And I wanted to express some of those thoughts here today as I am kind of reflecting on the end of what this year looks like and what lies ahead. 10 is more than just a number. It's a testament of the journey that we've all been on together, this incredible community here that we're building. When I reflect on this, I had a podcast before that was called The Cost of Doing Nothing. And I remember my engineer and my friend, Bryce Prescott, who does all the incredible work behind the scenes on this show, was sharing with me that if you were going to do this, you had to be able to do it and be consistent. So the interesting fact is that most podcasts, they never make it past the 7th episode. In fact, most of them kind of fade away right around this point at 10. I think the number is like 50%. So similarly, 20% of all startups fail within the first year. Like, here we are, we're continuing to thrive and to grow and to think. This was just an idea in May, this company that we call Neuma. So when I look back and I think about this, why? Why are we here? Why are we thriving? And I think I figured it out. Like my friend Bryce says, when you find your voice, you want others to join you in the celebration of that voice. And that was one of the things I saw in a psilocybin journey this year, is that Neuma is the celebration of the human emotion in all aspects of it. So we're not just building a business here. We're not just creating a podcast. We're actually building a movement. So when I look at how all of this began, and I share very openly over the last 2 years, the prior show that I had, The Cost of Doing Nothing, where we talked about imposter syndrome, and I discovered my voice through Bryce Prescott. And I was able to watch my healing journey and to be able to take all of that and to be able to channel it and to do something with that. And I remember joining this organization several years ago called the Center Club in Baltimore. And it's a lot of these business type people, and it's a great way to network. And, I've always gone to events, but last year I decided that I wanted to give back, that I wanted to be able to make an impact on the community. And what better way could I do that than being a veteran and being on the Veterans Committee? And I remember sitting down over a glass of wine with the chair and saying, I would love to be part. And I have this idea. I have this idea about psychedelic assisted therapy and PTSD for vets. He said yes. I couldn't believe that he actually said yes. So as we were having this conversation, I thought immediately, who am I? Who am I to get involved in this kind of thing? How on earth? I don't know enough. There are not enough people here. No one's going to love it. All of these conversations in my head. So I started to network. I started reaching out to others who were a little bit further along in their journey. And they were so open. They were so amazing to be able to share their knowledge with me. And I invited them to come help me share this topic. And they graciously agreed. They all got on a plane and flew from their respective areas into Maryland to be able to sit down with a community of people that they didn't even know, to be able to share their stories, their hearts, and be able to just talk about healing. I remember having people come to the event that were not veterans. There were community leaders in our city talking about trauma, and as a trauma-identified city, the solutions that we could bring. And I remember watching these people having this incredible conversation about how we can make a difference. And then I remember coming back from that. And I remember sitting down with these guests and having these conversations. But then I remember standing outside after it was over and jokingly saying to Matt, how did we get here? How on earth did any of this happen? And he looks at me square in the eyes and he points and he says, you made this happen. You put yourself here. You opened yourself up to the conversation right there on May 1st at the Center Club, talking about psychedelic assisted therapy. Neuma was born. While it started with that seminar, I drove home that night thinking, what if? What if I made this small conversation here bigger? What if I contributed more to the cause? I had taken so much away from healthcare in the health insurance industry over my career. But what if I gave back? So for me, this event wasn't just a gathering. It was a spark that led to this creation of Neuma and Neuma Hydrate and the mission that drives all of us. This summer, I got to go to Capitol Hill and share my story with congressmen and senators and their aides. I'd be able to watch the unfolding and advocate for MDMA therapy. I got to watch history unfold this year in Maryland as the psychedelic decriminalization bill was signed by the governor to evaluate it. Meeting all of these people within Maryland who were tirelessly advocating, people who were in state Congress who were putting themselves out there to do this. It was a reminder of the power of community, resilience, and vision. These weren't just milestones. These were stepping stones towards creating real, lasting change. Again, Neuma wasn't just an idea. It was a deeply personal response to my own healing journey. Like many of you, I was searching for answers. As a veteran, a CEO, a trauma survivor, I faced challenges that no amount of traditional success could ever fix. Through psychedelic-assisted therapy, I found the breakthrough that I needed, and I wanted to go back and help. But I also discovered this gap, this missing piece in how we recover and replenish after these incredible experiences. That realization, working with others along their journeys, allowed us to create Neuma Hydrate, this product that was designed to support neuroplasticity and to nourish the mind and the body and to help create these changes that your body already has. So over these last 10 episodes, we've been so lucky to have such incredible guests. Men who have shared their stories of our psychedelic lineage. People who have businesses that are helping in the ketamine industry. Facilitators who share not only their stories of vulnerability and their trauma, but how these medicines, whether plant, whether not, and pathogens, entheogens, MDMA, all of the things that we initially had started, how do they help? Facilitators that have shared their wisdom about what they are and aren't. Who are they for? Are they for everyone? Trauma survivors, cancer survivors, people who have shared these stories of resilience that inspire us to hope and to have the courage to continue to fight. Each guest has brought their unique insights, reminding us that transformation is not a journey we take alone. It's one that we take as a collective society, where again, it's the celebration of the human emotion. There are so many different paths up the mountain, but eventually they converge into one. I am so excited to be able to look at where we're going and to be able to share vision of where Neuma is heading next year. We've been going back through and looking at the entire rebranding process, who we are as an organization, what is our mission, how do we support the psychedelic facilitation and the experiences and the people who are trying to find healing themselves. And it's always kind of funny when I look at the history, and I know that when I started down this path, I wanted to know all of the things that I could about the history and how we got here, and then going back even thousands of years to the indigenous tribes. And then looking at men and influencers like Timothy Leary and Rick Doblin, and just the amount of amazing sacrifice that they've had and they fought for. And when I look at Timothy Leary, and I was sharing with a friend this morning at breakfast, he is a very polarizing figure. In some ways, the way that he approached and educated, stood on the stage at Woodstock, was amazing. He is where we attribute our 3 steps in psychedelic therapy. The intention of defining your purpose, your set and setting, creating the right environment where you are in a safe place. And then integration. What is it? How do you apply those lessons that you've learned? How do you apply them every day? We had one guest on who said, the magic is not in the medicine. The magic is inside of us, and the medicine allows us to tap into it. In my historical understanding, while Timothy Leary got a lot of things right, I believe he missed one important thing in psychedelic recovery. That is what we call the 4th step. After you've had these incredible experiences, your body and your brain need the support to solidify these changes. And that's where the 4th step comes in. Neuma Hydrate replenishes those nutrients, and it hydrates your body where it needs to sustain these transformations. When we look at where the story came in, even from how we created it. I remember sitting down with a genetics lab down in DC that's doing all of this amazing warfighter brain health initiative stuff with the Air Force and PTSD, and sitting down and saying, I have this idea. This keeps coming up in my own experiences where I have these headaches, and I look at my Oura ring and it says I'm stressed, and the medicine has been incredible and I've learned so much, but I want something that's going to support this. And I've heard about this neuroplasticity thing and how my brain can grow and rewire. And it's like this Zamboni thing with water and ice on a skating rink. And they came back to me and they said, we think we have it. We think we know what we can do. And we created Hydrate with ingredients like magnesium and inositol and L-theanine and taurine, and looking at vitamin B's, 3s, 5, 6, 12s, breaking the blood-brain barrier, things like GABA. So looking at vitamin C, and then looking at the electrolytes and looking at the potassium and being able to have those as well. As an ultra runner, I'm very familiar with stick packs, very familiar with electrolytes. And those things were great for running 100. They weren't so great for the mental marathon. So when we looked at this, we wanted to create something that didn't just hydrate the body, but it aided in the whole production of neurotransmission, a brain health supplement. It's not about hydration. It's about amplifying and maintaining the changes that you've worked so hard to achieve in this therapy. I joke because I've ran hundreds. I've had some psychedelic experiences that were more difficult. Mentally, they were taxing and exhausting, but they were transformative at the other side. When we look at that, there are 3 simple ways to incorporate Neuma Hydrate into your journey. You can start hydrating early, 24 hours before the session, and then right afterwards, start hydrating. And then choosing these to support the mind and body, and to be able to look at it as a morning ritual. Now, every morning as I journal, I sip my hydrate, and I look at that time of mindfulness and creating my intentions and looking at what I was trying to integrate from the lessons of what it was that I was learning. All of these small things that can nourish your body with care, but they're small, impactful actions that make the world of difference in sustaining those experiences and those transformations you've looked along the way. As we celebrate this milestone, as we close out 24, knowing that this was just an idea in May, having product in a fulfillment center and have it shipped to people all over the country with overwhelmingly positive feedback, ketamine clinics, psychedelic users, facilitators, people who've had traumatic brain injuries, all saying incredibly glowing things. As we celebrate this milestone, I can't help but feel excited about what's ahead. How we're moving into new spaces with Hydrate. How we're retargeting our advertising. We're being consistent with our message. How we are focused on supporting facilitators and clinics and users. And more importantly, healing. We're just getting started. We're focusing on how we can bring in science and academics, facilitation, and supporting those frontline workers, whether that be at a state or a federal, being more involved in veterans' causes, more speaking engagements, starting off with that one back in May at the Center Club, then standing on a stage at PsyCon in October and having mega pastor churches, having these conversations with you about God and psychedelics. Where do we go from here? We're about creating this hub for connection of minds, fostering dialogue, and building a brighter future for psychedelic therapy. So for everyone who's listened, everyone who's shared and supported this mission, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Together, we're building something bigger than ourselves, a movement grounded in science, enlightenment, and healing. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share it with somebody who you think could benefit, and leave us a review. If you're ready to take your recovery to the next level, check us out at Neuma.health. Until then, here's to the next 10 episodes and beyond. I have already had several of them recorded, and they're going to be incredible. The partnerships that we're creating, the collaborations that we're building. So excited about 2025. But more importantly, I'm excited to have you joining this journey with me. So here's to the next 10 episodes and beyond. Until next time, take care